we've always maintained that if there's going to be any type of some type of a disruption of the two-party duopoly system, it's going to come from a labor movement.
Has to be labor.
Can't be any other way. And I think what she's attempting to do, which is obviously what was amiss with whether it is the People's Party, the Green Party, even the Libertarian Party, there has to be a very concise direction in terms of workers' rights, healthcare, environment, living wage. And this seems to be the type of movement that could really catch fire. Would love to hear your thoughts on the initial stages of forming this and what it will take to actually make it succeed, because you were obviously, front and center with an organization that attempted to do something similar. And of course, it did not succeed. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on what the Workers' Strike Back movement needs to do in order to get this right.
I like the name.
I love the name. I think that it's a bold initiative.
Yeah.
One of the biggest problems I see with it right now is that it has a face and a leader. Like, my advice to Kshama would be, give the microphone, start getting more voices, faces, people associated with that out there. Because one of the problems we've had on the left over and over and over again is that we keep placing our bets on a person or a personality instead of the movement and the idea. So letting the movement and the idea lead, I think, is where it's going to break through. So it's awesome having somebody as bold and well-spoken as far as being able to really alliterate the issues. Like, she's amazing at alliterating the issues, just talking through things. It's awesome to listen to her because she frames things in a way that everyone is consumable to everybody. But I just feel like we have to get away from sort of this hero bolstering that we have on the left, and we have to start this. So letting the idea of this worker party lead rather than having a face for it. That would be my first suggestion to her, making sure that there's a very strong infrastructure, partnerships right out of the gate, and having, just like she always says for socialist alternative, having a democratic process in place that's not so flat that nothing ever gets done, like a holarchy where everyone is trying to do everything through, 1,000 committees. It doesn't work. Life can't work that way. You got to have some kind of structure. But really, I think it's about listening to the workers and supporting them. And one of the problems that I see right now with growing any kind of worker movement is only between 2 to 6% of our country is unionized at this moment. Most workplaces aren't large enough. So I think it would be interesting to see more trade unions that folks can get involved with, that either, especially imagine if we had trade unions for independent contractorships right now, because so many millennials are doing gig work. That could be a really interesting one. So that's one of the areas that I see where we're lacking. And then also combating temp jobs. We need to start going after these temp agencies right now who are skirting labor laws. Temp work is now 33% of the economy. And that's insane. So these places that used to hire them permanently, would give people benefits, would give people retirements, are now just doing the rollover, hiring and then laying off, then hiring, then laying off as the people at the top get rich. So those are my thoughts on it. It really starts with the people, and it starts with the problems that we're facing. So getting out there, and she probably already knows because they've already been talking to people.
Yeah. Well, she has actually a success rate, right? Like, she's actually succeeded in getting things done. Yeah. And I also think that she is very, very in with on the ground people in the labor movement. I don't think that this is one of those things where she's clearly said, this isn't about unions, because the union bosses are often just as much part of the problem. She specifically said that this is about going to all labor. This is about workers. And I think that she is the kind of person that people will want to be affiliated with. Like, I know that if she called up and said, hey, Jen, you want to start organizing the, Florida, workers strike back, I'd be like, oh yeah, sure. Please sign me up. Like, I can't help her enough. I mean, I've got my vest. I'm like, I'm ready to go. And I think that there's a lot of other people. You had even suggested connecting, like she should connect with India Walton. And that would definitely be a really good like cross-pollination. But I think if she can bring in those kinds of people, that it can be real. And the labor is the universal organizer. And what's interesting is that I remember when you were on with Nick and we were talking about the People's Party, moving for a People's Party. And I remember at that time saying something along the lines of, I'm not so sure that the third party is the way as much as labor uprising is the way to actually get that party. It's sort of like you can frame the party.
I agreed with you.
Right, like you can't, it's sort of like you can make the party and hope they come, right? Or that could be the uprising. And I've been saying it for about 2 years on this show that the next movement has to come from labor and it has to come from the ground up. And that's exactly what she said in her letter. So I think she really gets it. And I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't already have a ton of things in place, you know?
Probably does. I mean, it felt to me that she's been, I'm just assuming here that she's been working on this for a while.
Yeah.
Also, you know, her and her team, whoever they may be, if they're coming from Socialist Alternative and the other organizing that they've done, they've already got a lot of work under their belt. Because, I mean, I've looked at the organizing that they've done in Texas, for instance, over the last, this summer, against, following the mass shootings, also showing up all the protests that they had done in Seattle and throughout Washington State. Yeah. They really have done a lot of work on the actual ground, getting people out to push for specific initiatives. And like you said, those are wins that they can then translate into what that means for workers.
Yeah, she's connected to the people on the ground and the workers, but if not for just seriously, the fact alone that I think of her as the thorn in Jeff Bezos' side, and nothing makes me more like that pleases me to no end. And I'm sure like he'll be having parties thinking, you know, he's finally free of her. She's not going to be on the council anymore. And I think he doesn't have any idea what she's got coming for him. Like that's like, he's probably thinking, oh God, thank God. There can't be anybody as radical as her that could fill that spot, right? Like, I just think, how many millions of dollars has he spent on that city council race every time?
Millions of dollars to him is $10-20.
Right. But for a city council race, like, I don't know. I love her for that.
But I will say, you know, history has shown, and the two most productive times in our nation's history when it came to labor were during both of the Roosevelt administrations. And part and parcel that happened because of the Eugene Debs of the world, the William Jennings Bryans of the world that had this really big labor coalition that created so much momentum that, as FDR said, make me do it. Well, you know, workers really grew to such a degree that they didn't have a choice. And then over the course of that 2-decade period between FDR and JFK, you know, you had unionization in the country in, I think, like the 30 to 40% range. Today, it's at the all-time low of 10%. That's not a mistake. And you can see why so many people are getting all kinds of crazy right now about, you know, everyone should be forming a union at their workplace. And it's true, because day by day, a lot of the disintegration of the workforce around the country in terms of their rights are just being disintegrated over and over again, whether it is corrupt union bosses, whether it's the fact that the Democratic Party is a party of Wall Street and not Main Street. There's so many machinations that have come down the pipe, but there is no doubt that if labor found a way to get its act together, I think that's the ticket for us finally moving in the direction that's going to save ourselves. I hate having to say it that way, but in many ways, that is where we're at. If we're going to save ourselves, it's going to be with labor.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.